Welcome back to SnowRunner, where we're in the process of recovering the buddy. And I think I'm going to go this way because I'm just kind of curious to see if there's a road that makes life a little easier on the way out, because it was something getting here. Let's see what happened. All the way over here, I tried to take a shortcut and rolled the dairy special. Then I got caught on a rock trying to cross this way, which, by the way, I'll take any day over super terrain. Although apparently I was supposed to go off to the left and go this way, basically. But because this was the first time, I ended up going up and around. And the dairy can crawl its way uphill, but it's not really recommended, and I wouldn't recommend it for this task because I forgot about its tendency to get stuck because of the front hole overhang on the cab also. So it's not on my list of trucks I'd recommend for this. I had a moment where of hope that things would be easier, because I was thinking, this road is leading right here. There's maybe another one. No. I drove the Earth Roamer out here and checked with the camera. There is no underwater crossing here, which is unfortunate. Although, given what you have to go through to unlock the other new truck, that's the 6x6, I'm not surprised. If you don't mind staging fuel, there are definitely some other trucks better suited because they're not nearly as heavy, so you have more engine power available for the pull. Of usual suspects, Voronggrad, Freightliner M916A1, and I just stayed using the Earth Roamer pulling a Scout fuel trailer, or maybe one of the small trucks like the TUS-16 Action or the 6566A, or if you have it, the Step 3364 Crocodiles, just mobile fuel. That will make your things a lot easier. I haven't found any too crazy mud, which was honestly kind of surprising. I was expecting there to be at least one doom mud pit, but apparently not. So, the only thing I'd say is pick something that doesn't get stuck, because this crossing's probably going to be the hardest part of the whole journey. It's just getting across here, but the mud doesn't seem too crazy. At least when I'm not pulling, but now that I'm pulling, it could potentially become. But instead of going this way, mainly just because I don't want to have to deal with all the hills that the dairy would struggle by itself, we're going to go this way and continue our blind expedition, and maybe we'll come down this way, is I guess the possibility, and then that will bring us to this crossing. There's also the option that if we get down here that we could just continue going here and see if there's an easier crossing at some point, which may be an idea. Although I'm suspecting I'm probably going to need a fuel rescue at some point. I was almost completely out, but fortunately the Buddy has about 132 liters of fuel in it, so I just used all of that, and that's where I got my reload. I think roof racks should be a Scout thing, honestly, and so that's why I don't have one on my dairy, although you can absolutely argue that this was a task where I should have broken my emergent and brought extra fuel. Absolutely. So anyway, let's get going. we're back. I just had to run the Earth Roamer all the way out here. Figured I'd take this way. The only place I really ran into difficulty was actually at this crossing point. There's kind of some mud here. And I don't know if it was just the fact that this is meant to be tough for vehicles, even some of the hybrid scouts, or as usual, it's me using off-road tires instead of muds. But this area is not to be underestimated. We'll see on the way back. Use the Earth Roamer to bring fuel out here. 160 reserve liters, and they give it a 95 additional liters from the vehicle. And now we're going to finish delivering this. Even though this is kind of a long way, it's going to be quicker, because we'll essentially be able to basically take the highway all the way there. And that's the thing about this game. You often want to take the, in terms of distance, longer way, but it will often be fast. So that's something interesting, and I'm kind of excited. I always wanted to haul those transformers right there that I'm looking at as cargo. I thought that'd be a nice 1 or 2 slot cargo, but I guess there's a big transformer to move as a unique heavy haul, which is cool. As far as renewables go, I'm a fan of hydroelectric power, and I believe that dams don't necessarily have to be as big as we think they do. The extra size is usually because there's some secondary purpose, like freshwater reservoir or flood control. But if you're just generating power, it can be simpler, and I'm honestly a proponent of that. And we also kind of need to recognize, love the custom tires on the, we kind of needed an NA equivalent to the custom tires Rudget trucks did, so I'm glad to see this. Anyway. So the dams that if you're just building for power may actually be smaller. And you can do stuff to minimize impact, like little silt dispersion screens and fish ladders. So I think it's one of those solutions that has to be part of the renewable future. Although personally, I think the big thing you could do is be building more steam-fired power plants, which in effect are what a coal plant is, and just run them off hydrogen. That, I think, is the long-term solution, because it doesn't require the billions of dollars to upgrade and repair the U.S. electric grid so you can move power between states, which is potentially a huge impediment if you want to go just all solar and all wind. You have to potentially get around that. So I'm excited to be working on a hydroelectric dam as the big contract for this region, essentially. As far as personal vehicles, I'm more a fan of hydrogen, just simply because I like the idea for a few $1,000 that you can convert your vehicle from gas or diesel to hydrogen. And so I think that's going to be financially a better idea than trying to get everybody to buy brand new electric vehicles. Now, if they can come up with a safer battery than lithium-ion, I'm willing to give a conversion kit a chance, because I live below the snow line in a place where it doesn't get too extremely cold, and I just use my vehicle for commuting. So theoretically, I'm your ideal customer for an EV. I just don't have the money. And I'm kind of scared, honestly, about the off-gassing in a crash of a lithium-ion battery killing me by asphyxiation, to be completely honest. And so, personally, but I mean, if you could find better bids for the hybrids, better, safer batteries or hybrids, honestly, I'd be willing to give it a try. It's just I don't believe the technology is mature enough, essentially. And personally, I also don't like putting batteries on the bottom of the vehicle. I think they should be in the engine compartment, just so the things you encounter either on the freeway or if you live above the snow line where you're potentially rubbing the bottom of your vehicle on snow, that isn't kind of a comforting thought to me. I've lived lived and worked in the mountains. And I don't know how waterproof the seals are, because where I live, our storm drains leave something to be desired, so I don't really like the idea of the batteries being on the bottom of the vehicle for that reason also. But anyway, I just thought I'd go on a tangent since renewable energy is a part of this DLC, and I was kind of originally thought about this because I was looking at the solar panels on the Earth rover, which is a big field and has become instrumental in scouting this new region, and thinking about how easy it was just some batteries that could turn it into hybrid, because I think you've got recharging things to these solar panels. So theoretically, you could just take the gear blockers on the back of the vehicle, and that's where you could put the battery. Just kind of me, just imagining stuff. Anyway, let's get back to the task at hand, which is delivering this truck, and it should be an easy job once we get across this river. I don't know if this is meant to be the place where you get the beams for the bridge on the first map, or if there's another place, like I suspect, so I'm probably going to do the task of Way of Rain off camera. It's called Way of Rain, right? On Rain's Trail, yeah. I'm going to do this first because it looks like there's a warehouse. Yeah, so that may be your answer. I don't know. I mean, if I have to bring it from all the way over here, I'm not too worried. I kind of have an idea how to do that, so it wouldn't be too bad. And here we are at the end of the journey, delivering the PLAD 440 Buddy. It was an enjoyable experience. Would I recommend this truck? No. But that's what happens when you do it live. You may not consider multiple factors. I was just thinking, can it handle mud? Is it too long? How well does it corner? Are there overhang issues? And yeah. So after we drop this off and we get the completion text, I'll add the footage of me crossing here just so you can see this crossing and then decide which crossing you want to use to cover this truck. But anyway, thank you for watching.